Welcome to the newest installment of the web series Revenue Stream with RMS. My name is Alicia Kelso. I am the executive editor at Nation's Restaurant News and former senior food and drink contributor at Forbes.com. I am with a power panel of experts today, and they include Robin Blanchette. She is the chief executive officer of Norton Creative, which serves the restaurant community through restaurant building and interior design, social and digital media, brand positioning, and menu and campaign design. Hi, Robin.
Hi.
Good to see ya.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I've got Beth Collins. She's the chief marketing officer of AMPEX Brands, which is one of the country's largest multi-unit operators and owner of All Bomb Pan and fast casual disruptor Bella Green. Hi, Beth.
Hello.
How you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. And of course, we've got Jana. Zschieschang. She's the Chief Marketing Officer of Revenue Management Solutions, and she is no stranger to anyone on this call. Jana, always good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks.
All right. So today we've got a fun conversation. Really looking forward to diving into this one. We're going to talk about the elephant in the room, which is pricing, how restaurants can maintain profitability in these relentlessly inflationary times, and doing so by simply understanding changing customer behaviors. So I want to start by sort of painting a picture of the current customer landscape and that current, customer, that purchasing behavior. All of us on this call are consumers, so some of this might not be a surprise for us. But most recently, we've got a March survey from RMS that indicates that restaurant consumers are officially cutting back. They've sort of been barreling toward this, for a few months now, and now we're finally seeing a more clear trade down. In March, the RMS survey showed that food away from home prices surpassed food at home prices for the first time since 2020, and that was with an 8.8% increase. That was the highest year-over-year increase for restaurant pricing in 2+ decades. That said, traffic was down less than 1% year over year for QSRs, and consumer spending in non-restaurant retail sectors is seeing greater declines. So obviously this shows consumers are continuing to dine out, but they are moving a little bit more, toward that trade down, and maybe need a little bit more convincing, compared to post-COVID booms of years past. So I want to kick this off with Jana, since RMS facilitated this research. So can you sort of paint a deeper picture of what we're seeing based on your research?
Yeah, sure. I think, Alicia, you mentioned already the sort of traffic numbers. So what we've seen in the first quarter for 2023, that traffic, particularly for the QSR restaurant segment, was 0.7% down compared to last year's quarter one. And it doesn't tell the full story really, because we have to go back 2 years actually, because last year's numbers were very impacted by Omicron and people going less out. And if we're comparing it back to quarter one 2021, we can actually see that traffic is down 7%, around 7% for this segment, so quite significantly. And you mentioned already some consumer surveys that we're doing on a quarterly basis. We go out and we talk to consumers and trying to understand more about their behavior and what drives those behaviors. And obviously, one of the questions we're always asking, how often have they been going out? And the March numbers that we ran tell us that less people are going out on a weekly basis. So those numbers were around 80% beforehand, where respondents are going out once a week. And we now see those numbers have gone down to 60%. So really, like you mentioned, people go out less often. But then the other part you talked about is trade down, and that's what we're seeing in the numbers as well. We do see people are buying less items and less expensive items. So they're really deciding how often they go out, and when they go out, what they buy and where they go to. Obviously, you mentioned pricing. It's one element of it. we ask people in terms of how do you perceive prices in restaurants? And actually, in the March survey, 3 out of 4 customers said that they feel they're spending now more than the previous month. So it's quite still climbing up and on the forefront. And we also know that not only from the numbers that we see that the restaurants see, but also what the people are saying in terms of how much they're spending. That 1 in 3 said they're spending more. So it's a small amount that spends more. And when we're asking why, it's predominantly driven by pricing. So they're really trying to manage how often they go out and how much they spend now. And that's something that obviously brands are very aware of. They see it in their numbers. It's one of the questions probably most asked from clients right now as well. So how should we deal with this? And we're seeing a cooling off in terms of the pricing activities. So it's definitely on the forefront of brands. How much price can we take?
That is really interesting because you're trying to reconcile traffic with sales, right? So in certain circumstances, customers are showing that they're still willing to spend a little bit. We're obviously seeing what we're seeing. We've talked about this in the past, the tolerance, the threshold. Have we reached the ceiling?
That's a good question. I mean, we had the same question we were asked last year by a lot of our clients. And we did a study last summer where we looked at 25,000 QSR restaurants across numerous brands. And we really analyzed how is the pricing activity that they have taken? How is it impacting traffic? And when it's too much, pricing too much. And what we saw at the time is that the sweet spot seemed to be around 10 to 13% of annual price increase, saying that if brands or restaurants took more than that 10 to 30%, the traffic decline was so severe that actually the benefits of a pricing initiative didn't filter through to the bottom line. So does that mean that restaurants can't take price anymore? No, it doesn't mean it, but it needs to be more targeted, more specific. And the big thing now is really how do you communicate value? So obviously customers are very, very aware of the price increases. They feel it. But how do you reposition it and talk about the value that you're providing at the brand?
All right. Well, that's certainly an interesting point because we may have seen some cooling off, at the high level of inflation, but obviously consumers are still feeling pinched in several areas, energy, certain commodities, and of course interest rates are higher. So, with that, do we as consumers sort of redefine what we perceive value to be in an environment like this that is still very much unprecedented?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone on the call, we know price is only one part of the value equation. There's obviously many other things that play into that equation. And I think every customer defines value for themselves in a different way. But when we asked the question in our last survey in terms of are restaurants providing good value to you right now? Back in March, 40% of the respondents felt that restaurants currently do not provide good value. So it's definitely top of their mind.
All right. Is there anything that you can, attribute that specifically to, the sort of lack of confidence when consumers are answering in that way?
We asked that question, said why? Why do you think? And number one, 2 out of 3 customers or respondents, I should say, said it's price. The prices are too high. But then to a lesser extent, but still significant, was portion size or poor service.
Okay, interesting. All right, so we have to be mindful of all of it, right? Of course we do. So let me, take that sort of research that you're seeing, that at a deeper level, and turn that over to Beth. And Beth, I'm just curious to know if everything that Jana just outlined rings true for your brands, what you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jana stated it perfectly, and it's critical that we define what value means to our guests. It's particularly interesting and challenging at AMPEX Brands. We own and operate, within the fast casual space, as well as a franchisee for QSR. And value means something very differently to each one of our brands. So with our QSR brands, value may come in the form of bundling or creating a deal on a meal. How do I take a meal home and feed my family? And so providing bundles and offers that help them feed their family at a great deal, with, of course, having the quality of the food tasting great, and matching the price that they're paying, but they're also feel like they're getting abundance. They're getting a lot for their money. But then we have another concept where value fits more into the quality of the food and the service that we're providing them. And so it's a fast casual brand. This is Bella Green. So we have value within the quality of the products that we're providing within the model that we service. So Bella Green is a fast casual model that has an elevated menu. Everything's made fresh from fresh quality ingredients. It's on the healthier side, lots of vegetarian, paleo, all this good stuff that fuels your body and people are after today. But it's, it is, a little bit on the high end of price and fast casual. So it's critical that we provide value to our guests in the form of the food tasting great, the quality of the ingredients being perfect.
One thing that I'm super curious about, Beth, if I can, pose a follow-up there, especially with the diversity of your portfolio, and I'm sure it's certainly not a black and white answer because of that, but how do you reconcile price as it relates to margins in this environment?
That's a great question. With back to Bella Green, for example, we acquired that brand almost a year ago, and we made a commitment as a team that we were not going to take price within the first year that we owned the brand, because we wanted to understand the consumer and understand how price played into their experience. And so, we've been working really, really hard to stay true to that goal and not taking price. So we've really looked at labor and cost of goods to see if we can make any savings there to lessen the margins and make things more profitable without impacting the guest.
Okay, so you're having to look at a bunch of different things to achieve that sort of reconciliation. One of those, and I want to turn to Robin, then it was to transition over there and look at maybe the tactic of menu engineering and menu design. And Robin, I know that you have designed about maybe over 200 menus for your restaurant clients at Norton Creative. So, are there any best practices or trends that you see working in the scope of this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Throughout COVID, there was a massive shift to reduce the size of the menu. So folks went down to, throwaway menus or QR codes. So engineering or organizing, the layout of the menu, or even sort of how prices were communicated, got shucked, just basically caution to the wind. Like it was sort of like, let's just shut this down as fast as possible. And I would say most of our clients, and even, the industry as a whole, didn't really take into account what the real estate looked like or the architecture of the menu. They just wanted to get it as small as possible, as fast as possible. So what we're seeing now is more of this sort of normalization of sort of pre-COVID, where folks are coming back and saying, okay, I want it to be a little more design forward. I want to get back to telling the story of my brand. And I also want to make sure the menu is highly profitable. And because we did take price, right? We spent the last 2 years taking a significant amount of price. Gosh, it's obvious to the guest, like you guys were talking about, it's obvious. We know, as a consumer of restaurants all the time, even I'm like, God, it's expensive. It's shocking to me sometimes. And so how can we sort of redesign menus to not bury the idea that there's an increased price, but reorganize it so it feels a little more palatable to the guest. So it's a little bit of art and science. It's taking and understanding contribution margin for items. And certainly, as Beth mentioned, sort of helping our clients, sort of suggesting, should we replate this product? Should we work on food costs? Should we eliminate some SKUs, or should we change up some things? It's really identifying all the touch points within the menu and how things are organized. So, it's one of the things we're seeing a lot of is brands that maybe never really took a sort of scientific approach to pricing, or to engineering all of a sudden go, I think it's time. Like, I think we've got to do this now, because I might have been able to say, yeah, let's take $1 on this or 50 cents on that. But now I need to think about this in terms of the balanced approach to things. Like we say here all the time, we tell the guest what to order through our menu. We don't let them Harry Carry decide. We organize and engineer the menu to make sure that the most profitable items get sold, the ones that you're best in the world at get sold. So again, I think, we're going back to a place before COVID where the brands, are really looking at the menu as a way to solve a lot of problems and do it in a little bit more scientific way than maybe they had done it before.
All right. So there are some positives to come out of that, right? We're looking at efficiencies perhaps a little bit more sharpened. So, I'm just curious, with all the clients, in your portfolio, are they wondering if pricing has maxed out? Are they coming to you seeking creative ways? I know that you kind of touched upon this, but I'm just curious to know how they're asking you and coming to you to try and engage the consumers a little bit more with that pricing conversation.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, there is only so much pricing that one can do at this point. I mean, it's about sort of changing up real estate and architecture, but it's also looking for ideas around campaigns and new products and LTOs. Again, more of a normalization of pre-COVID, where there was a lot of that. Like, let me find ways to sort of offer something that is going to help drive traffic, which is what we used to work on all the time. But COVID happened and everybody's like, put the brakes on everything, but just, effectiveness and efficiency. So we're seeing sort of the creative juices flowing a little bit more. And the asks are more like, gosh, can we find something that's not going to trade down with other products? It might be a solid price or maybe even an entry level price. It's going to be highly profitable for us. And where would we put that on the menu? I'm certainly, folks that did not or were not concerned with sort of layout or style or romancing items that they want to sell more of, those types of things, are more interested in it now. So some of those tactics are coming back into play that I'm seeing. Certainly folks that are looking, more diligently at their social platforms and trying to find ways to drive traffic through places that they maybe didn't use to drive traffic before, media forums and things like that. So.
Okay. Interesting, for sure. Talk about some of those tactics. Jana, I know that RMS had some recent research that showed consumers are starting to pick up coupon use again. And I'm curious if you can sort of elaborate on what you've seen.
Yeah, coupons are back. So we in our survey we did at the end of last year, that was one of the areas we focused on in terms of promotions, coupons, what can we learn? And back then, 3 and 5 respondents said that they had just used coupons in the previous month. And actually, 2 out of 3 are more likely to go to a restaurant if they're running a promotion or using coupons. And the same amount of respondents stated that they are also more likely to switch to competitor if they feel they're offering some sort of promotion or couponing. And one thing that really surprised us is also how different generations are using coupons differently. So what we found is that our Gen Zs and millennials, they are more active seekers. So they go on the app and they try to find those coupons, those promotions. And they are motivated by trying new items. So really, as Robin mentioned, some new menu items, they're incentivized by trying those. But they also, at the same time, they want the flexibility to be able to share those coupons with their friends and their family. And then when we're looking at the older generations, Gen X and boomers, they are more passive seekers, I guess. So if it's delivered to them, they will certainly say yes to this. And they are more motivated by trying regular items at a discounted price point. So very different motivation in terms of for using coupons. We mentioned apps already. When we ask in survey, how do you find out about promotions? 60% are actively seeking for promotions on apps. But still, and that surprised me, TV ads are still hugely influential. So half of the respondents said they find out about certain promotions via TV. So it's kind of, the old mixed in with the new, a good combination of them all.
All right. Well, you talked about apps, and I can tell you from my vantage point, loyalty programs, probably top 3 topic I've written about in the past 2 years. So, that said, Beth, I understand AMPEX recently launched a loyalty app, and I'm curious to know, you can provide any color on how that's going and what the impetus was behind that launch.
Absolutely. And just full transparency, the app for ABP is still in development. So we're still working on that, but we created it, for this exact topic that we're talking about in mind, is how do you provide value to your guests, and really coming back to that perceived value where, we're still driving incrementality and getting those people in and spending money, but they're feeling like they're being rewarded for their behaviors and, that they're getting something back from the brand. And so with ABP, it's an interesting challenge because we're in channels where we have very captive audiences. We're inside of hospitals, on college campuses, places where it's not the most accessible brand. So when you're looking to drive sales, you really have to focus on your audience and who you have, and driving, frequency and getting them in more often and purchasing, more, driving guest check average, increasing visits. And that's, the best way for us to drive our sales is through that. And that's what the app is going to deliver for us. We're modeling this app. Bella Green has a loyalty app that rewards our guests for their purchasing behaviors. We do monthly campaigns, based on a variety of different reasons, whether we're just doing flat out rewards or we're trying to get a latent user back in, whatever the case may be, the app provides all those opportunities to drive those behaviors. And, in the almost year that we've had Bella Green, we've been watching very carefully on consumer behavior through the app, and it works. If you are strategic in your offers and you're speaking to them based on how they use the brand, you're going to provide them that value, while driving, driving your sales. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're all here to do. So we've seen great success with that through Bella Green, and we're excited to launch the app with ABP and drive more frequent visits and things like that.
Things of that nature, right? We broke down, loyalty programs in the top 3. And if I were to extend that to the top 5, kiosks would be in there. And I know that you are rolling out kiosks too. So if you can, tell me a little bit more about that and maybe how it, integrates, if at all, with any of this other, these other channels that you're focused on right now.
Yes, absolutely. So we are testing kiosks in with one of our franchise partners in a university. It's Purdue University. And we've put in a satellite cafe that is not manned. It is, the guest goes in, they get their salad, their sandwich, what have you, and they go and they scan it and they pay for it through their college bucks or whatever, means of payment they're making. And so that launched a couple of months ago, and we've been just, watching it closely and excited to see the results that come from that. And so, the students love it. The faculty love it. It's very easy. It's, ABP is all about grab and go. So this kiosk style fits the brand perfectly. Much to my delight, I was very apprehensive about this due to shrinkage and thinking, my God, you've got this full assortment of food available to these kids. They're going to just walk out with it. And we've seen almost no shrinkage in the 2 months we've done it, which is exciting.
That's great.
So things are going really well, and it's providing a service to these people that they're in a hurry, but they want to make good decisions on their snacking and meal opportunities. So, there's a lot more to learn from it. But so far we're excited about the results and look forward to rolling that out in more of our locations.
Yeah. And in full transparency, I am jotting down a ton of notes, and I do hope that we will be able to follow up, because I would love to, see how the test goes and maybe write about it, if there is a case study here. So congrats.
Yeah,
Sounds like it's going great so
Thank
far.
You. Well, hats off to our Aramark partners.
A last question that I want to sort of toss out to all three of you, if I can, is just to give you the floor and any parting words that you have for our listeners about, that general theme of boosting profitability in the face of such ongoing, inflationary pressures and price sensitivity. And, I don't know if this conversation is going to dissipate anytime soon. So, Robin, let's start with you.
Yeah, my perspective and the questions that we're getting from clients is really about all the guest touch points. This is a situation where you can't just say, we're going to take, 5 cents on iced tea and expect it to solve all your sales problems, and that was certainly something that we all did for many years, right? This is now talking about not just the menu and the engineering and the architecture and making sure the prices are at the nines and, all the traditional stuff. This is, you got to look at the entire customer journey, from the digital perspective all the way through to ordering, whether it's a drive-through or, at the table. We do a ton of customer journey work to show, look, the poster you hang inside the four walls can help you drive profitability too. It's not just because you've got a new dessert to sell. Let's really think about what's the point? Why do all this stuff? Otherwise, it's just marketing busy work, or what we call random acts of marketing. I think the future is really about every single one of those touch points. And, if you're a CMO, as Beth knows, if you're managing culinary also, there's a whole ton, there's so many things to do within your existing product lineup and just on your plate, or developing new products. They're going to help take the margin pressure off of other things. But I just don't think anymore you can just check a box with pricing like we've been talking about and say we're all good, because it's impacting traffic in such a negative way. So now it's about all the touch points. And I would say that's what we tell clients, to say, look, we're going to work on your menu and we're going to help manage all this out, and it will help you drive sales and grow profit. But that cannot be the only thing you're looking at. You've got to look at all the touch points.
I'm going to use random acts of marketing as much as possible moving forward. So I appreciate that. Beth, do you have anything to add to that, to jump off Robin's points?
Yeah, absolutely. With for ABP, for instance, we've taken price and we've reached our ceiling. We can't take any more price at ABP. I'm proud to say we're at par or below our competition. So we're not, absurdly high in our pricing, but we did have to take price, and our guests are frequent users and they feel that and they know that. And so we've had to take a couple steps back and really drive focus around execution and making sure that the experience that the guest has when they come inside matches the price they're paying for the food. It has to be perfect execution of our baked goods, perfect execution of all food, and perfect service. And perfect's a big word, but guests aren't messing around anymore. They want, if they're going to pay, they want a perfect experience. And so we're spending a lot of time with our cafes and making sure that we're delivering that perfect experience, the ABP experience, to them. So it's, not so much, some of the fun things that you can do in marketing, but obviously, the guest experience is all wrapped up into that. And so we're spending more time on operations than we typically would, but it's critical. It's a must do in these times.
Sure. And Jana, bring us home on this topic, just based on your unique perspective.
Yeah, I think Robin and Beth already covered quite a lot of the points. The main objective for, I would say, pretty much every brand out there right now is protect their traffic and protect their guest count. And that's the best way really to optimize your profitability and grow profitability. And there are so many touch points to it. Price is obviously something that a lot of brands had to touch over the last 2 years, and they went to. But now that we're seeing that customers are trading down, that they are very selective in terms of when they go out and where they go out, and they're reducing the frequency, the other part's becoming even more important. So that is the execution of the services. It is, how do you engage your customers in your brand story? How do you, how do you make sure that they want to be loyal to you and they come back, and what opportunities do you give them? And obviously, as a data company and working with the restaurant industry, our recommendation is very much, keep innovating, keep testing, keep analyzing what you're seeing, and then adjust it. And keep doing this on a regular basis. Restaurants have been very, very successful during the COVID period doing this, so just keep doing it. And I think maybe to leave the audience with a positive outlook as well. When we asked respondents in our last survey, about their dining out habits, they also mentioned, or one or two actually mentioned, that they want to go to restaurants to celebrate a special occasion. They want to go out to restaurants to meet with their friends. So there's great opportunities for the restaurant brands to capture this special moment with their guests and really build the story around it. So whilst they might be a little bit more selective how often they go out and what they spend their money on, they're certainly very willing to have this experience with restaurant when it comes to special occasions. So restaurants are in the business of creating memories. So I think this is a great opportunity to really tell your story as a brand and capture those loyal customers.
Yeah, great. And I, for one, commend you for ending on a positive note. I know that we could all use it. After the past 3 years of whatever that was, it's good to have some optimism, and I think operators will take a lot of the expertise and recommendations that you all had today, and hopefully that will help them with even more optimism. So I look forward to even more conversations on this topic, and hopefully we can only hope that it gets better, that we don't have this many conversations about inflation in 6 months from now. All right. Well, thank you, all three of you. This was great and such a relevant and timely topic. And to the audience, to learn more about the latest consumer insight, sales, and traffic trends, or to contact Jana or any of RMS's experts, you can visit revenuemanage.com. You can also tune in to our next revenue stream. We're going to discuss menus, the changing ways guests now consume them, the hidden blind spots on menus, and the best spot on the menu for add-ons, and the ever important upsells. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.